Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for part one of AARP's Retirement Planning webinar, Tips to Get on Track. My name is Jean Setzfun, and I'm Senior Vice President of Programs at AARP. I'm joined today by my colleague Susan Weinstock, Vice President of Financial Resilience Programming. If you feel like it's too late to save for retirement, AARP has some reassuring news for you. It's not. Even if you feel behind schedule on your retirement plan, there are actions you can take to get on track. During our conversation today and in part two of this webinar on Thursday, we'll answer the most commonly asked questions about retirement planning we receive. Tonight, we'll delve into Retirement Savings 101. We'll cover topics such as how much to save for retirement, where to save, investing at different ages, and we'll talk a little bit about the important role Social Security plays as a part of your retirement security. On Thursday, in part two of this webinar, we'll cover your questions about staying on track. And don't worry, both of these webinars will be available on demand so you can watch them again at your convenience. Before we get started, I want to remind you that this webinar is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute as investment, tax, or legal advice. We strongly recommend that you seek advice from a professional before making financial decisions. We're not responsible for the consequences of any decisions taken in reliance upon the information provided during this event. Susan and I are personal finance generalists. We're not financial advisors. So we'll provide you information, but not specific personal advice. All right, let's take a moment to take a look at this Q&A environment that you're in. On your screen, you'll see the video and slide windows and their corresponding icons. Should you want to minimize either, just click on the icon and you can resize each of the windows. And most importantly, you'll see the Q&A tab. It looks like two dialog boxes. That's where you can ask us questions. When you click on the resource icon, you'll find documents and other information that we'll mention during today's discussion. We'll also ask you to respond to some poll questions, which you'll see appear in the slide window. And at the conclusion of tonight's Q&A, please take a few minutes to complete the survey. It'll help us improve our programming, and you'll see it automatically appear on your screen. And as a reminder, we really want to hear from you. So if you have questions about today's topic, please type them into the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer as many of your questions on air as possible. You can also ask questions via Facebook if you happen to be watching from there. All right, let's begin with the poll question. Since saving for retirement is actually tied to work, please tell us about your employment status. Are you currently working full-time, working part-time, looking for work, or retired? Take a look at the selected answer and choose the one that most applies to you. We're going to take a look at the results in a second.
So while we're waiting, we know that retirement planning and saving is a daunting subject. Let's just all agree it's not something we like to think about because so many of us feel like we're behind the eight ball. And who likes that feeling? But you've done so much already to prove you're financial savvy. If you've ever saved for a goal and met it, or pulled off buying a home or a car, or put yourself or your child through college, you have what it takes to plan and save to meet your retirement needs. So please keep that in mind during both parts of this webinar. You can do this.
All right, looking at the poll results, we have most of the folks joining us tonight who are still working full-time, and close in second are retired also. And some are looking for work, some are working part-time as well, but mostly still working full-time. All right, well, let's get started. We are going to start answering your questions. We actually received a lot of questions about kind of the very beginning. How much is the right amount to save for retirement? Here's actually a question from Deborah. How much do I really need to save for retirement? Everyone you ask says something different.
So unfortunately, there's no magic magic number that it just doesn't exist. But recommended amounts are based on estimates that keep you at your current standard of living. So there are two things to keep in mind that impact how much you need to save. First of all, look at your lifestyle and how that's going to drive how much you need. You may live more simply when you stop working, so you'll need less. Or if you plan to be a globetrotter for many years, you might need more. And then second, how much you set aside also depends on how much you might receive as income in retirement from things like Social Security or maybe a traditional pension, which unfortunately very few of us have.
Yeah, it's so true. All right, let's take another quick poll question so that we can learn a little bit more about who we have online today. The question is this: have you calculated how much you've saved, or how much you need to save for retirement? Easy, yes or no. Please select the answer that most applies to you. All right, we'll keep that poll open for a little while longer.
And while we're waiting, I'll take a question. This one's from Colleen. So how do I calculate what I'm going to need once I'm retired?
As Susan alluded to before, there's really no magic number. It is good, however, to set a target. AARP has a lot of resources. One is a retirement calculator, and you can go to www.aarp.org/retirement-calc. There you'll actually see a calculator that'll help you define what that target is. And it's really important to know that even though you feel like you're behind, don't let that stop you. Get started today. The sooner you start, the longer you have to save and invest, and the less money that you actually need to save each month. All right, we'll get back to that resource in 1 second, but we're going to take a look at the poll just to see how many people have already started to calculate how much they need. So roughly half and half. 45% have said yes, 55% have said no. So don't wait. Take a look at the calculator and let's take an action today and start calculating how much you need to save for retirement.
Right, and this is another really daunting but important, question. If you've never calculated how much you've saved for retirement, then you need to do that. You're not going to make your goal if you don't know what the goal is. So you need to open up those statements you get in the mail or go into the websites of the firms that are holding your money and see how much you've got. Then you can go to our retirement calculator to see how you're doing. And again, the website is www.aarp.org/retirement-calc. And let's keep those questions coming. Remember, we want to hear from you. So if you have questions about today's topic, any question at all, please type it into the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer as many of your questions on air as possible. And again, you can also ask questions via Facebook if you happen to be watching from there.
All right, let's take some more questions live. Here is one that I think speaks to where you actually save for retirement. So we have a question coming in asking, what exactly is an IRA? I'm 5 years away from retirement and would like to know if I need/should open one. Currently have a thrift savings account, government retirement. So I think that's a good question.
Yeah, an IRA is an individual retirement account. You can go to a bank or a financial institution, and that's a good place to open one, and you can talk to them about whether it seems like it's a good place for you to put your money.
That's great. Wonderful. And it seems like the individual is already taking some steps because they already have a thrift savings account, government retirement plan. So I think you're on the right track. And again, for individual retirement accounts, as Susan alluded to before, for IRAs, there are a lot of people who actually don't have a job where they can actually save at the workplace. So for those individuals, you really want to take that into consideration and look into an IRA, individual retirement account, and that might be another option for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's take another poll question so we know about your savings options. So here's the question. What is the primary way you are saving for retirement? Are you funding a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, a savings account, something else, or you're not saving for retirement at all? So please select the answer that most applies to you.
All right. I think this question comes up a lot about I know I need to save, but how? So similar to the question that we just took about the IRA, here's actually another question from one of our viewers, Bob. What's the best way to put money away that would help for retirement?
Well, the most important thing to do is always to pay yourself first. What does this mean? If you have access to a 401k at work, then maximize your contributions and make sure you put in enough to get the company match. If the company is giving you money and you don't put in enough to make sure you get that money, you're just leaving money on the table. It's not a good decision. So put all of it in that will make sure that you get that match. That's free money that you're walking away from if you don't take that match. And if you don't have access to workplace savings, you can think about doing a split deposit. That's where you'd have some of your paycheck go into your checking account to cover your bills, but you also have some go into your savings account. And next, this is really important also, just set it and forget it. It's a good idea to make your savings automatic so that you don't have to think about it or remember to do it or to transfer it, because you'll forget. And then you'll forget that you've been supposed to be saving for retirement. So have money deducted from your paycheck that goes straight into your retirement account. And if you don't have a 401k or a 403b, workplace retirement plan, do consider opening up an IRA, which we just talked about, an individual retirement account. And also, there are some states that are opening access to their retirement as savings accounts. So California, Connecticut, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington have all passed what we call work and save laws that help small businesses offer retirement savings plans to their employees. So if you are an employee of a small business, talk to your employer and see if they can get in on the work and save program in that state.
So Susan, you mentioned something about set it and forget it. So having a workplace that actually has a 401k, 403b, they're going to take money directly from, let's say, my paycheck and put it into that account. What happens after that? So after I start an account, should I make any decisions on where to actually put that money?
So the easiest thing to do is to put it in a target date fund.
Okay.
Because a target date fund is you say, okay, I'm planning on retiring in 2035, 2040, whatever. And you pick a fund that actually is named target date 2035 or target date 2040. And then you don't have to be a professional investment analyst and figure out where to allocate your money versus stocks versus bonds versus whatever. Mm-hmm. They will do that for you based on the age that you want to retire. So they'll change the risk level of your investments based on how close you are to that target date.
So if I know nothing about investment, all I need to know is when
what
I
year?
Want to retire.
Exactly. It really makes it very easy.
That's great. Thank you for that. All right, so now let's take a look at some other questions about retirement savings at different ages. What should you do differently if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s? So we have a question coming from Sarah. Sarah says, I'm 45. I haven't been participating in the 401k at work. Is it too late to enroll?
It is never too late to enroll in your company's 401k. So in 2019, an employee can contribute up to $19,000, or if you're over 50, $25,000. Regardless of your employer's contribution amount. If you don't have access to workplace 401k or retirement plan, open an IRA through a bank or other financial institution, and then sock away as much as you can up to the IRS limits and consider target date funds that we just talked about.
That's great. Okay, we have another question here from Paul. I have a lot of credit card debt, and I have a 401k from a former employer. Instead of rolling it into my current plan, I'm thinking I should cash out and pay off my debt. Is that a good strategy? That's a great question.
It is a great question, and a lot of people have this issue. So the thing is that time is really your best friend when it comes to retirement savings, since the money that you're putting away is going to compound, and the more you have, the more you're going to make. So you want to make sure you have a retirement savings account and always go put that money in for that 401k match, as I talked about before. Now, that said, once you get that retirement account going, start paying off your highest interest debt first and then move to lower interest debt. Make a budget, write it down, and hold yourself to it, and try to get that debt eliminated.
I have another question coming in here, which I think is a really good one. This one is coming from Paul. Is it possible to have too much money in your 401k that would cost you more in taxes when required to withdrawal when you have to take it out at the age of 70? Is it possible to have too much money saved for retirement, Susan?
I would say no. I don't think it's ever, you want to make sure that you don't outlive your money. And so the more that you can put away and the more that you have, you'll sleep better at night knowing that you're not going to have to worry about that.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting question in here about taxes, and it's hard to answer that question without knowing more. But I think Susan's right. I think the more that you do save, the better that you have sort of greater security in the long run.
And generally, when you're 70 years old, your taxes, if you're retired, your tax level will be lower. Mm-hmm. So you'll be paying lower tax rates on that money that you're pulling out of that 401k at 70 than you are, say, when you're 65.
Right. Good guidance there. All right, we have another question coming from Melissa. I suddenly find myself near 50 with not enough saved. On top of this, I still have school-age kids at home. I'm not going to lie, I still want to retire before my 70s. What are the 2 to 3 things you recommend that I do right away in order to right this quote-unquote ship, i.e. my retirement?
Sure. So there's lots of things that you can do to right your ship and get it right. So first of all, take advantage of special catch-up contributions. That rule in 2019, and the amount changes every year, allows people age 50 and over to contribute an additional $6,000 a year to a 401k plan, and an additional $1,000 a year to IRAs. So that's a good way to start. And then I can't say this enough, make sure you're putting enough money in your 401k to get that full employer match. And then in order to maximize your savings as you're getting close to retirement, make sure that every time you get a raise, not only do you get that raise, but you put some money into savings from that raise. Give your savings a raise as well. And you also might want to think about working past when you're eligible for Social Security so that you can, 1, continue to have the income from your job, and 2, to increase your Social Security benefit significantly.
Absolutely. Speaking of 401ks, AARP and the Ad Council developed an interactive online resource called aceyourretirement.org, and that's a website that you can go to called aceyourretirement.org. You should be able to see that on your screen right now. It's geared towards folks who may have a 401k through their work, but could use some more guidance on how to make the most of it. So to learn more, go to aceyourretirement.org. So for those who are actually looking for that sort of 2 to 3 really important things to do, this tool actually provides you some customized guidance on what to do there. All right, we have time for another poll question, and this one focuses on Social Security. When will you or did you claim? For those who are still working, so you're in the will you, and for those who are retired, think about when you actually claim Social Security benefits. Did you take it early at 62? Did you wait until your full retirement age? Did you wait till your maximum benefit at 70, or are you undecided? So we'll let that open for a little bit longer just to kind of get everybody's thoughts. And
while we do that, I will take another question. This is from Karen. She says, I'm 70 now. Do I have to pull money out of my 401k now? So she has the required minimum distribution at 70 and a half, where she will have to start pulling money out of her 401k.
Okay.
And it's going to depend on a number of different factors. We don't know all the details about how much you have to pull out.
That's right. So, okay, let's take a look at, there are, I think, a lot of questions related to Social Security, but let's take a look at what the poll results are. So I think for most of the folks on line tonight, they're going to wait until full retirement age. Congratulations on that. Some will actually, quite a few, 24% will wait until the maximum benefit at 70. Others are going to tap into, roughly about 14% of you are thinking about tapping early at 62. And there's a bunch that are undecided. So really encouraging to see that people are thinking about waiting till full retirement age, some waiting until the maximum benefit at 70. And one of the things that I do want to kind of point out, because full retirement age for all of us is different. So for those of you who don't know what your full retirement age, let me just kind of run through that really quickly. So for most of us, it's either going to be 66 or somewhere in between 66 to 67 or 67. So let me go backwards. So for all of us who were born after 1960, our full retirement age will be at 67. And for every year between, let me go now to those who are born between the years 1943 to 1954, your full retirement age for Social Security will be 66. So everybody between the years of 1955 to 1959, yours is going to be 66 plus a couple of months. So beginning at the year 1955, yours will be 66 plus 2 months. For those born in 1956, 66 plus 4 months. 1957, 64 plus 6 months. 1958, 66 plus 8 months. And for those of you born in the year 1959, your full retirement age for Social Security is 66 plus 10 months. But again, I really like the question that was asked here in terms of the poll. Full retirement age makes you kind of think that it's actually maximum benefit, but you can actually wait till 70 before you get the maximum amount of your Social Security benefits.
And for that large chunk of poll respondents who said that they're undecided, really think it through. You still have obviously time then to decide that you want to hold off, and you're going to get a much bigger benefit if you wait. You'll get 8% more a year if you wait to take your Social Security. So we also get lots of questions about Social Security. So I just wanted to mention that we've done 2 sessions like this webinar that you can access at any time. Just go to the URL on your screen, the learn.aarp.org, and you can go there to see these 2 webinars that we just recently did on Social Security. And you can also go to AARP's Social Security Resource Center, where we've put together answers to 100 of the most common questions we get. So if you go to www.aarp.org/Social Security, you're going to be able to access this great information.
Great. And since we are talking about maximizing your nest egg, we should bring up that whether you should delay claiming Social Security benefits. Did you know that for every month from your full retirement age, which we kind of ran through a lot of detail on that, until you reach the age of 70, Social Security will actually increase your benefit by a total of 8% for each year that you wait. So, for example, wage earners who reach full retirement age at 67, but delay claiming benefits until the age of 70, you actually get 24% additional benefits tacked on to your monthly benefits. So it really does pay to delay.
And I just want to say the next Social Security webinar is actually on June 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and people can register at learn.aarp.org. and visit the Social Security Resource Center, as I said, at aarp.org/Social Security. So here's a question from Sam. What are the income limits on extra income I make once I start taking Social Security?
That's a really good question. So we talked a little bit about the interaction of full retirement age, and for those of you who are thinking about taking Social Security benefits before then. So the earning limits and the adjustments are only taken if you actually claim your Social Security benefits before your full retirement age, and you continue to work. Okay, so that's where this earning limit actually takes into effect. So the earning limits are adjusted annually, and in 2019, Social Security will withhold $1 in benefit for every $2 earned over this amount, $17,640. And I want to clarify, I say withhold because that money is going to come back to you after you reach your full retirement age. But just to give you a specific example of how this works. So if you have a job, or a full-time or part-time job that pays you, for example, $25,000, the amount over that limit is $7,360. So Social Security will deduct $1 for every of those $2 and withhold that amount. And if you continue to work, look into kind of putting off claiming Social Security so that you can get the additional 8%, or until you reach full retirement age, in which case after you start that claiming at that point and you still continue to work, there isn't this withholding anymore. And on top of that, the more that you earn, Social Security will add that to your benefit as well.
So here's another question. This is from Mark. When is the best time to start drawing down your 401k?
Oh, that's a great question. And that's very individualized.
Right.
It depends on what your circumstances are. But there was another question earlier about what's the earliest you can actually start to withdraw from your 401k without getting a penalty. And that age is 59 and a half. But again, it really is dependent on what your circumstances are, when you're going to either continue to work, stop working. But the dates to keep in mind, or the ages to keep in mind, 59 and a half is when you can start to withdraw without any penalty. And at the age of 70 and a half, there is what they called a required minimum distribution that you actually have to begin to deduct or actually withdraw money from your 401k. So the IRS can actually take taxes from your 401k account. Again, all of these retirement accounts are established to encourage people to save for retirement. So you're actually delaying the taxes until you actually start to withdraw. So that's just something to keep in mind, sort of those two boundaries of 59 and a half when you can tap into your 401k without penalty, and then 70 and a half when you have to start taking what they call the RMD, required minimum distribution.
And that's an IRS rule. There was another question that came in that asked about, do all 401ks have that rule? That's a rule from the IRS. So yes, that applies to all 401ks.
Absolutely. All right. It looks like we have some time for a few more questions. And so, since we have a lot of folks online who are still working, we got a question pretty early on about working, how you can actually plan for retirement when you've been out of work. So this question comes from Lori. How is it possible to plan for retirement when you've been out of work for more than 5 years and the money you have is running out? I'm 62, scared about my financial future. What do you think about that, Susan?
That's a tough scenario, and we hear about that, too often. It's unfortunate. So I would say try to find a job. I know that's easier said than done. It's a lot of work. AARP does have a job board, and so I would recommend you looking at that. Go to aarp.org/work, and you will find our job board where we list jobs posted by companies that are interested in hiring older and experienced workers. And I would even say just get into the job market. It doesn't have to be in the field that you studied for or that you were in previously, but you need to start bringing in some income, have something to put on your resume that's current. So I would go ahead and just take a job that's convenient and something that will work well for you. That's a good place to start. And if you can afford it, try volunteering. A volunteer job is a great way to get back into a field or into a new field where you learn the ropes, you have something to put on your resume, you're going to meet lots of people, network, so that you find the job that you're looking for by talking to everybody you know and telling them that you're looking for a job.
It's great guidance. Thank you for that. All right, looking at our clock, and I think it looks like we're almost out of time. So thank you so much, Susan, for all the guidance you provided today. And thank you to the audience for the thoughtful questions that we got tonight. A link to learn.aarp.org is included in the resources folder at the bottom of your screen. There you'll find additional free online educational programs, including other upcoming webinars that we alluded to throughout the program tonight. Information, for example, on job search skills, family caregiving support, new technologies. So be sure to check that site out. Another great resource to check out is aarp.org/retirement, where you can actually find financial resources, including articles and the calculators that we talked about tonight.
Now, before we go, we need to talk about, unfortunately, one other issue, which are fraudsters impersonating Social Security employees. These ploys range from telling a victim that his or her Social Security number has been suspended and requesting that number, to threatening arrest if a victim doesn't place money on a gift card and give the fraudster the gift card number. And then there's another version of the scam that threatens the victim with arrest if he or she does not return the scammer's phone call. Finally, some impersonators tell victims that they will receive greater Social Security benefits if they pay a fee to the scammer. The best strategy is to avoid these scammers altogether, so please hang up the phone. Avoid giving your Social Security number to anyone who telephones claiming to be from the Social Security Administration. Social Security employees will never, ever threaten you to obtain information or promise benefits to you in exchange for information from you. So please, as I said, just hang up the phone.
Absolutely. In fact, Social Security will never actually call you if you ever want any information from them. They really rely on you to call them rather than the other way around. So even if your caller ID says Social Security, there are a lot of fraudsters out there that can what they call spoof the caller ID number. So don't believe that even if it says Social Security coming through. Again, they will not be calling you. If you need anything in terms of guidance or information, they really rely on you to call them. So on behalf of AARP, I also want to thank all of you, our audience, for all the great questions we received tonight. We hope the retirement tips were helpful to you. I hope that you take a few minutes to complete our survey. That really helps us sort of improve our programming. It will automatically appear on your screen in just a moment. We hope you'll also join us this Thursday, just 2 days from now, April 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern, for part 2 of our discussion. We'll share more retirement planning tips to help you stay on track, and we'll continue to answer questions that we'll get that day, as well as ones that we received tonight. If you haven't already registered, please visit us at learn.aarp.org to do so. Thank you again, and we hope to see you on Thursday.